My name is Roei Derhi, the creative director of Placebo. I was studying in Shenkar College in Tel Aviv. Today I'm a lecturer over there and working with Beckmans as well in Sweden. My background is from fashion, traditional fashion, pattern making, sewing, graphic design, and print on fabrics, all the things that you need to know basically to be a fashion designer. With time, I was able to manipulate that and take my very oriented, geeky approach to tech and then combine the two together. As a kid, I think the moment that I felt in love with fashion is I used to copy from the comic books characters. I used to sneak into my mom's kitchen, take baking sheet paper, and then put them on top of the comic book and just trying to illustrate that until my mom will scream at me, "Where is all the baking sheet papers?" But I used to just redraw them with new clothes, and I felt in love with the magic of how fabric and fashion and this shield that we create on us can actually define the character that we are today. I felt in love with tech because I felt like there is something about technology that can take fashion to another level, take it from a low tech to high tech, and let me as a designer get another layer that sometimes is bigger than reality. I can do things that I cannot necessarily do in the low tech aspect of fashion, and that's what's so magical for me about that. I started with digital fashion actually back in 2015 was the first time because they used to teach us Optitext. I don't know if anyone remember this software. It's a great software. It was about creating pattern making and toiles using digital fashion for the first time. It's really hard to get the knowledge of how to do things and how to create things and how I can use one asset that I created in platform X and take it to another platform, or even how can I utilize that. And for me, that was a challenge. But I think the biggest challenge that I have when it's come to digital fashion is understanding how digital fashion is still fashion. What does it mean when I create digital fashion when it's come to the intellectual layer of that? Is that something that important for me to keep zippers, buttons? What is the language that I need to use as a fashion designer? And with time, I created my own DNA of what I believe digital fashion should look like. And it's interesting question, and I'm sure we're all dealing with that. If someone making like pants that create from fire, is that digital fashion? Because fashion is about movement. Fashion is a rich language. It's symbolism. It's about culture. It's about a lot of things, and it's something that is a shift constantly. So what does it mean when we're talking about digital fashion in digital platform, and who is the one that saying and define that? I love to think about characters. I like to think about people. When I see a collection, even when I created like physical fashion, I like to see the collection as a group of people in one universe and which one have which role in this universe. Is one of them is the queen, the king, who is the sister, the brother. I love to see it in a very theatrical way. I will say as well that there is something about me that is very futuristic oriented, but in the same time, I like to get inspiration and I give a lot of respect to the past. I love to look at classic art. I come from a Jewish family, so I really like to try to dig into biblical stories to find over there questions about which kind of questions are important to raise in the 21st century regarding to the history of human. I always say when hype come, it's like a rain. The job of a hype is to flush everything that we don't need and clean it to make sure that the things that are important will stay. That's what happened with digital fashion. We learned a lot. Some people went with the flow when it's come to hype. We saw a lot of damage happen with the crypto and the NFT. It was like a cannibalism effect. It actually an industry that ate herself until no one believed in that anymore, and people laughing today about NFT. Unfortunately, because I do see how we can use technology in the long run, and I do think it will come. But how are we going to use it? In which ways are we going to utilize blockchain? I think we learned a lot about that. We, for example, didn't create any NFT project because I felt that I not completely understand what is going on in this field. especially because I was working with blockchain 3 years before the hype was explode. So I was not sure what people are talking about, but then we did use blockchain in the moment that we created the beliefs that we have in Placebo with my team. What should we use blockchain for? And then we created the Babylon project when we put NFC in each garment, each item of the physical collection that we created, and people can just tap with their phone and see the digital passport of each item. I just launched an exhibit in the Hulon Design Museum. It's an exhibit about gender, and I definitely took it to raise questions about what is gender going to look like in the future and in digital platforms, because there is something that allowed you to change your identity every day. I took a lot of inspiration as well from the past. I went to the Roman god Bacchus, very fluid in the way that he always showed himself, sometimes very feminine, sometimes very masculine, sometimes he was divine, sometimes he was a human. We see him through history presented himself as evil and sometimes good, wild, but very civilized. There was something about all this tension between him that was very inspiring. So I created 4 digital characters by scanning myself in 3D and imagine myself, how am I going to take this inspiration around Bacchus in theater and art, in Caravaggio, Goya, the Witches' Sabbath, and just manipulate that to create characters. And for me, it was a very interesting project because I do believe that we need to continue to take the rich background that we have in art and fashion and how we can take it into digital platforms, how we can actually shift it to be something new. That's for me the most exciting thing. Just stay curious, learn all the time, teach yourself, sit down, see tutorials, investigate, go to the library. I know it's weird, but go to the library, go to museums, try to understand yourself when you see a garment. Try to ask yourself when you see an art piece, why is it so interesting to you? Is it the colors? Is it the volume? Is it the tempo of the video artwork? What is it that triggers you so much? And try all the time to create from those places. And I think it's very important to stay curious because fashion is about movement. You all the time need to see new things. You need to explore new things. And if you are not curious enough, uh, as a designer and creative director and as a lecturer as well, when I have a conversation with a student, for example, if the conversation stay very flat, it always can be seen on the outcome. And in the moment that we are able to take off the layers and dig inside history and creative process that you took inspiration of and take it to a different level of conversation, the outcome is completely different. It's very personal sometimes, and you can see when someone come to give a critique, it can be touched in a different place. And I already can see things that come from a very flat place. And I think it's mandatory for us to be curious. It's mandatory for us to do research. We are like in the phase of AI is exploding. You can just create a prompt and then get like a sketch, and it's an amazing tool. It's a new revolution for us that can make us just create things much more quickly. But there is something about art, there is something about fashion that it's very socialized as well. When I'm going to museum with friends, we are having the discussion about something that we really like. And in the end, when we're talking about those kind of things, it's an intellectual conversation and it's going to get much more value, I think, because of AI, because of everything that we see right now. Those people that can keep things in a very intellectual level, it's going to be precious to see those people and to have conversation with them. When I was a student, I actually have a lecture. When you are like a fashion designer, the lecturer that you have are sometimes mentors for life. They basically design you as you design clothes. There is no such a difference between education and to working with kids and students and to design garments. It's just a different material. And I think there was something about this lecturer. Her name is Edith Barak, and maybe she will hear that because she's she all the time investigate as well around fashion, but she started with me when I came to Shenkar with zero knowledge, and she finished with me in the graduation project. She was the one that actually guided me through. And I remember that she told me for the first year that a good designer need to be honest with yourself. If you love those colors, so this is what you have to offer. Your honesty, that's the only thing that will make us as a designer unique from others and will create your own DNA. And I think it's the best advice that I can give to any designer. Just be honest and ask yourself the question, what do I like? Why do I like that? What can I do with that? Because your story, your childhood, the things that you like to eat, the friends that you like, what you like to do in your free time, if you like winter, summer, whatever you like, this is who you are. This is what you have to offer and how to manipulate that to your aesthetic. And I think this is the best advice that I got ever.